crafting leather duck. The project that I will be making today is this adorable unicorn slider card. After this video, please take a few moments to like this video if you enjoyed what I did, and also subscribe to my channel so I can add lots more tutorials here. For this project, you will need the Cricut Machine, the mat, and the blade that goes with the machine. Optional, you can also use the scoring and the embossing tools that you can get for your Cricut as well. I did for this project. You will also need cardstock for the rainbow. You'll need white cardstock for the background and white cardstock for the unicorn that you will print out. You will need a printer. You will also need a tape runner, some foam circles or foam tape, whatever you prefer. And you will also need colored markers. I used the ones for the Cricut, and I had the Cricut write out my sentiment in the card and on the front. However, you can use any kind of marker that you like. The other thing that you will need is a penny or a button that is the size of a penny. And we will start our project now. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go into Cricut Design Space and add a square. We're going to adjust that square to 6 inches wide by 8 inches long by unlocking the lock on the top. I'm then going to change the color to white so that I know that this is going to be on a white piece of cardstock. And then I'm going to add a scoring line. After I add that scoring line, I realize that I actually need to flip it 90 degrees, and then I need to adjust where my card base is located. I want to put it right on a specific square so that when I put this scoring line on, it is specifically in the center. So I brought my card base to 4 inches by 1 inch, and then I'm bringing my scoring line down 4 inches because my card folded in half will be 4 inches once it is done. So now I'm going to group and attach this score line to the base of my card so that when I go to cut it, it will all be together. Now I'm going to add the sentiment into my card. So I'm going to type the first word to my sentiment, and I'm going to make sure that the size is the correct size. I'm going to make sure that the style is the writing style because I'm going to have the machine write out the word for me. And then I'm going to go back and I'm going to change the color to this. If you decided that you're not going to use your Cricut Machine to write the sentiment, then you can skip over this part and you won't have to do this. So you can see now I've duplicated the word sending, and I'm just going to edit this word again, and I'm going to change the color. Once I've done that, I'm going to do the same process for each of the other words. Now that I have all of my words, I'm going to align them using the align button. For the first 3 words, I'm going to use the center alignment because if you use the bottom alignment, it's not going to be as close. And then I'm just going to adjust the word unicorn to kind of make sure that it aligns a little better. Next, I'm going to do the same thing for the your way here, and I'm going to go to the alignment button and I'm just going to align. So you can see here I use the bottom because the Y's both hit the same location. Next, I'm going to group the first 3 words and then the UR together. In this way, it allows me to line them up in the center. That way I know that they're both aligned correctly. I'm also going to do the same thing with the happy birthday, and that will let everything be centered properly and it doesn't make it look funny as well. Now that my sentiment is all aligned to itself, I'm going to bring it over to the card and I'm going to place it where I want the card. I'm then going to adjust the size of the sentiment to make it fit a little better. I have to remember that I want to add sprinkles all around the word, so I do want to leave some space around it. Next, I'm going to just align it to where I think I want it on the bottom of the card, so I'm just using the grid lines. And then I'm going to use the Align Center button to align it to the center of the card. After that, I just group it and I attach it to the card so that when I go to make it, it will be correct. Next, I'm going to make a square that is 3.5 by 5.5. This will be the front of my card, and I'm going to make this the blue that you see on the front of the card. I'm just going to change this color to a blue so that way I can indicate that it is a different color. Next, I'm going to select an image from the image on Cricut Design Space. I want to find the unicorn that I'm going to use for the slider of this card. So I'm just going to pick any one that I really like. I really liked the one that I select. Now that I've inserted the unicorn, I'm actually going to go through and change some of the colors. I'm going to make this an image that I'm going to print, so I want to make the colors more of what I'm looking for. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to change the body to white. I'm actually going to change the back legs to a gray, but I'm going to edit that gray because I don't want it really gray. I just want it slightly darker than the white that the body is going to be. Next, I'm going to change the colors to the tail and to the mane as well as the horn. So all you do is you just click the colors that you want to on the side panel, and when you click those, you can go right up to your line type and change the colors to what you're looking for. Now that I have the colors that I want, I'm just going to adjust the size by putting the unicorn over the front of the card to kind of see what size I want, if it will work the right way. And I'm going to keep it at that size for now, based on the size of the card. Next, I'm going to take and I'm going to go find my image of my rainbow. So I'm just going to go back into the images and I'm going to find my rainbow that I like. So I found this rainbow that I really like, but I don't like the clouds on the bottom, so we're going to edit that. Next, I'm going to flatten my unicorn because I decided that is the size that I really like. So I'm just hitting the flatten button. That will allow it to cut and print. I'm just going to put that back on the front card, and then I'm going to start editing my rainbow because I want to make sure that the rainbow is how I want it to look. Now I'm going to start editing the cloud. So I'm going to ungroup the cloud and I'm going to delete everything that I don't want. I'm going to delete the cloud, I'm going to delete the background of the cloud as well as the face in the cloud. So I'm just going through the list on the right to delete everything that I don't want. Now I'm going to take and I'm going to add a box here so that I can start to slice the cloud into pieces. So I'm going to add this box and I'm going to unlock the size and I'm just going to stretch it because I want it to stretch all the way across the bottom of this cloud. And then the next part is I'm going to line it up right on one of the measurement lines, and this is because I want to be able to make easy slices to this cloud. So I'm going to make sure that this cloud is located on the 7-inch line here, and I'm just going to make sure that I move that back over because Obviously, I put it on the x-axis instead of the y-axis. So now I'm going to move it over to the 7 on the y, and I'm going to move this whole cloud down until I can no longer see the lines where the rainbow is cut off. Next, I'm going to duplicate this box because I'm going to have to slice each color individually. So I'm just going to move all of the other boxes out of the way, and then I'm going to start hiding all of the colors except for one on the rainbow. I did need to ungroup it again. So once I've hidden all of the colors except the one, I'm going to select the box as well as the rainbow, and I'm just going to slice. Then I am going to delete all of the pieces that I don't want, leaving just the rainbow. I'm going to hide that and then do the same for each of the other layers, moving that box right up to 7 on the y-axis. That way I am always getting the same cut all the way across, and I'm not messing around with having to resize each piece later on. So I'm going to do that with the yellow. Next, I'm adjusting that to the 7 on the y-axis, and I'm selecting, and then I'm going to hit the slice option. I will delete, so you can delete on the right panel, which is what I'm going to do here. You can also select on the left panel where the grid is to delete, depending on the size of the piece that you are trying to slice. Sometimes it's a little easier to just select it on the right panel. So here I'm going to slice this one as well, and then I'm just selecting and deleting all of the pieces I do not need. So once I've completed this with all of them, you'll be able to unhide every piece, and you can see the different, that they all match up and that they all have the same line on the bottom. Now that they are all unhidden, I'm going to take the background and I'm just going to place it behind my rainbow, and I'm going to resize my rainbow to the correct size that will fit the front of this card. Once I have that done, I'm going to select both, align it in the center, because this is going to be a very important step later on. I'm going to look at where I want my unicorn to be able to ride over the rainbow. That way I can kind of determine where my unicorn is going to be floating. Now I'm going to copy the rainbow. That way I can use part of the rainbow to actually make the slider section for where the unicorn is going to slide. I then unattach all of the pieces of the rainbow, and I'm just going to use this orange piece to estimate where I'm going to put my slider. So as you can see, I'm just adjusting it to what I think looks the best, and I'm going to align it, and I'm going to play around with it a little bit just to make sure that it's where I want it and it's the right size as well. Because sometimes when you add these pieces in, if you can't get it just right, it's not going to look correct on the card. So as you can see, I'm just kind of seeing if this orange piece is going to be the right size, and I'm also looking at where I want to crop this piece. So I'm just going to get rid of the other parts of that rainbow because I don't need them. And now I'm going to take that piece and I'm going to look at it on the card without the rainbow. I'm going to look at where I want to crop this. So I'm going to drag this down now, and I'm going to create another box, and I'm going to use this box to crop a good amount off of the bottom. I just eyeballed exactly what I wanted, so I can't really give you measurements on this, unfortunately. I would just say play it by ear or by sight, and kind of see what you like. Now I'm going to move the rainbow back, and I'm going to put that orange piece back over it and see if I like the size of it. This way I can determine if I need to cut more off or if I want to add more. So now what I want to do is I want to round the ends of this piece so that I don't have those sharp points. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually add 2 circles here, and I'm going to first adjust the circle and see where I want to make it round. Now you notice that I have a small edge on the left, right at the left, and I want to make sure that I cut that piece off. So I'm kind of looking at what I can do. So I'm going to use a triangle to cut off that edge. So I'm just going to place that triangle. I'm going to resize it because it's really big. I'm going to align it to where I want to be able to cut off. I'm also going to play around with the circle to make sure that that is exactly what I'm looking for. So now I'm going to just move that circle out of my way, because in order to slice this, I need to only have the two pieces here. So you can see I'm still trying to figure out exactly where I want the circle and make sure that this triangle is the right spot. And I'm going to do the same on the other side. And now that I know that that circle is going to work on the left, I know that it will also work on the right. So I've selected both of them, and I just want to make sure that they're aligned on the bottom, and this way both sides are the same. And I'm just again aligning to make sure that my circle is going to work the way I want it. Now you can only select one triangle and the piece that you're working on at a time. And you can see that I did that side and then I sliced it, and then I'm slicing this side as well. Now I'm going to take my circle and I'm just going to keep adjusting it until it fits really well on the ends. Once I've gotten it to the size that I want, I'm going to actually take this circle and I'm just going to duplicate it, and I'm going to put it on both ends. Now that I have the circle where I want, I'm just going to weld this all together. You can see it's not perfect. It's not going to affect the card if it's not perfect, but it does look really good. Now I'm going to align it over the rainbow to see exactly where I want it. I'm also going to use the alignment buttons to make sure it gets to the center so that everything is even on both sides. Now I'm just playing around with the rainbow a little bit. I want to make sure that it's in the right spot, so I'm going to move it down just a little bit, because I don't want a ton of blue in between my rainbow and the slit for the unicorn to move. Now that I've done that, I'm going to take these and I'm going to slice them. This will allow me to remove that centerpiece, so when it gets cut, you'll have a hole in the middle. So you just move this back to the front so that I can see how it looks. I like how it looks, so I'm going to keep that. And at the same time, I'm also going to take that blue and I'm going to duplicate it. I'm duplicating it because I need another piece in white to go behind it, just to give that extra thickness. So I'm going to change that color to white, and then that way when I cut it, it will be good to go. Next, I'm going to add the clouds. I'm going to go to images and I'm going to find the clouds that I would like to add to this project. So I'm just going to collect 3 different clouds that I like. Now that I have my clouds added, I'm going to actually take the rainbow and put it back on the front of the card. And then I am going to take the unicorn and actually put it where the slider is and will be. That way I can look at where I want to position these clouds. So you can see this is where I really want my unicorn to be able to slide back and forth, and it will still give a lot of color to it. Now I'm going to resize my clouds and I'm going to bring them near the rainbow. I do want to change the color of them because I think that it's important that they're white, because that's what the project is going to be. So now that I have my clouds, I'm just going to position them where I want them and resize them as I need to. So once I have that resized, I am going to duplicate each of these clouds. As I duplicate each cloud, I'm going to resize them so that this cloud will fit inside of the bottom of the cloud underneath each line. These are going to be the embossing lines. This is also an optional step. You don't have to do this if you don't want to emboss your clouds with Cricut. So once I've done that, I'm actually going to trim the bottom of the clouds off because I want to bring that size in just a little bit more. So you can see that I'm highlighting the smaller cloud and the square to be able to slice. So once I slice it, I am going to delete the cloud part that I've cut off, as well as the box. So now you can see that I am selecting the embossing option, and I'm just going to group these together, and I'm also going to attach them so that when I go to cut, they cut on the correct spot, and that they will emboss on the correct spot. So you'll see that I'm going to do this process the same with the other two clouds as well. Now that I have the clouds back to where I want them, I'm going to put the sentiment on top of the card, which is just happy birthday. So what I'm doing is I'm just taking the happy birthday that I put on the card itself, because I want to reuse that font, and I'm just going to use this here, and I'm just going to edit it to be able to use it for my card. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the color of it. And the reason why I want to change the color is I don't want to use that green. Now I'm going to place the happy birthday where I want it, and I just want to make sure that I group it and that I attach the sentiment to the card where I want it after I've aligned it to where it should go. That will prevent it from moving when you go to actually make the card as well. Now I'm just going to arrange the elements of the card onto the card. I just want to see how it will look in the end. I also like to save it this way just so that I know what all the pieces are looking like and what the layers are supposed to look like if I were to ever make this card again. So I'll take it and I will just rearrange as I need. Once I'm done this step, I'm actually going to start cutting everything out. I'm just going to adjust each flight and then get ready to make cuts for everything. You can see that this unicorn will need to be printed, so you will have to do that process as well. But once that is done, you're just going to go through and cut each one of the items that are on each sheet. Now that I have everything cut out, I am ready to assemble, and I have all my supplies right here ready to go. I have the foam dots and foam squares that I'm going to need, as well as my markers and all of the pieces and the tape runner as well. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to put the rainbow together. So here's the rainbow, and have to arrange this accordingly. So it's going to go in that order. So then I just want to run some of my tape runner along here and just around here, just to be able to get everything stuck down nicely. Okay. So the first color is purple, so we'll get that one on first. Really doesn't need to be perfect on the edges because we're going to be putting the clouds to cover that up anyway, but it's nice to be able to get your colors as close as possible on here. Okay, so now that we have the rainbow together, we can actually set set that aside for the minute, and we're going to attach these together. I like to put this extra piece in the back just because it gives it a little more sturdiness, because it's going to be raised up off of the front of the card. So I want to make sure that I line these holes up really close together, because I want to make sure that everything can still move in here once I add everything together. It's very important to get this curve here, because you don't want this to separate at all. And we want to try and make sure we're lining it up best as possible. Okay. Now that this is attached really good, I'm going to attach my rainbow right here. And I love this. So this paper here is just from a Recollections or a value pack from Michaels. It was the Mermaid and Unicorn pack. This is actually a mermaid paper, but I really loved the fact that the colors kind of changed all through. So I wanted to utilize that kind of effect without having to paint it or anything or color it in. So now I'm just going to line my rainbow up right here. Now that my rainbow is on there, it looks so cute. I'm going to take my card, and you can see that it already has the sentiment on it. So next I'm going to add the sprinkles on it, because I thought it was really cute to have sprinkles. So utilizing the colors that I already have here, I'm just going to use the Cricut markers to draw each line. Just a bunch of little random lines. I love how that came out. It looks super cute. Next, I scored my card in the process of cutting it, which makes it so much easier to just fold it, and it makes it so even. I used to always fold them, and I'd be fighting with the edge to get straight. But with the scoring, it just makes it so much easier to be able to fold it in half. And then you can use a bone folder if you have it. I don't currently have my bone folder, but I have this label peeler. So I'm just going to press my fold down really good, just to make sure that it's stuck really good. Okay, so the next part that I'm gonna do is I'm going to attach the front of the card to the base card here. So the first thing that I need to do is add these little adhesive circles to it. Now I keep all these pop out. I keep all of the excess on any of my adhesive circles and squares, because it's actually still adhesive. So why waste it if I have to? So I take all of these little pieces, and I've actually punched these ones all out, but I'm going to use all of these little pieces in the middle where you don't really see them anyway. But I'm going to put these circles in the corners of each of these. So I just want to make sure that my penny is not going to fall through, but also that I'm not putting any foam dots where the penny might actually hit. So I want to make sure I'm avoiding those areas
But I also want to make sure that I'm still putting adhesive all around this because it's going to be popped up against the card and I don't want it to fall off of the card. Now that I have those on the back, I need to add adhesive to my penny. So you can use a penny. You can also use a button if you have a lot of buttons. Any kind of button will work. I can show you. You can use this button here. As long as it does not fall through this hole here, you can basically use it. Which, if I use this button, so the different size buttons mean that you might not need as much adhesive on the back. This one will go really well actually. I'm going to use that button. So we want to have the curved part of the button facing down into the card so that it will be against it like this, because we're going to add adhesive to this side of the button. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the button and put it underneath my card, and then where I can see the button, I'm going to use different foams to raise this button upwards so that I can actually put something on it. And I think that these ones actually work really well because I can put them on. So you can see right there. So I put the adhesive right there. I am gonna double make them twice as high because I want this button to be higher than the card itself. So I want to be able to move this easily around, but these are still not high enough for how I like to have my little unicorn up on it. So if I would put it there, it would drag really hard on it. So I'm just going to double up my adhesive circles. So now, when I attach the unicorn, it is going to be up higher than this board and it's not gonna like get caught on it. So now I'm gonna bring this down over to here and I wanna position my unicorn however I like it. It's up to you how you want it. And I'm gonna see how I like it. So I think I want my unicorn at a slight angle. So I'm gonna take these off. And I am going to put it at a slight angle. So now you can see it is gliding really simply. Now that that's attached, I can attach this to the front of my card. So this card in the front, this front card is a 1/2 inch smaller than the card base. So I want to give it about 1/4 of an inch all the way around. So I have to keep that in mind when I place the card. So now that that is all done, I'm just gonna line this card up to the best of my ability with 1/4 of that around. So you can see that there's space all the way around. Now you'll see that my rainbow isn't that perfect on the bottom, but that does not matter. We are going to use the clouds that I just created. And you can see that I did the embossing on them because I really just like the little bit of an imprint that it puts on it when it has it. So next I'm going to attach the clouds. So because these clouds are up here, I am going to actually take this cloud and just attach it right where it is. with no dimension to it because the cloud that I'm going to attach over it, it's hovering over it a little bit, this one here, I am actually going to give it a little bit more dimension than even this card front. So the first thing I need is I need to put an adhesive down here. Because this is where this cloud here is going to get attached, and I want to do one right here as well. So I'm going to use one more circle. I'm just going to slide that under, not that much. I need to pull that out just a little bit. There we go. Okay. Now I have to add more adhesive to this or else it's just going to be flat. So I'm actually going to use these little square ones, and the reason being is because I don't need the full coverage of that circle one on these clouds. I want to try and hide as much adhesive as I can. Now these will be raised up so it will go right here, but I need to put one more right here. So I'm going to put this on here, and then you can see how this has given it even more dimension when you're looking at the card. And I love the dimension that this card has. I really feel like it stands out so much. So the same thing here. I'm going to actually raise this one up too because I want this to be at the same level. So again, I'm going to put adhesive on the bottom and slide it underneath. So here, this is a bit bigger of a cloud, so I'm just going to slide this bigger piece under there. So just sliding it right there, and then it's going to sit a little bit to the side. So I'm going to give it a little bit more of a support right here. And then I'm going to give it the little cubes again, the little cube adhesives again, which I have right here. And right here. And then I want to give, sorry, everything's moving, the top of this. So I'm going to move the unicorn right here just in case. Remove that. And then you can really see how that pops out as well. Okay. And then there you go. There's the finished product. You can see how cute it is that the unicorn just slides so easily back and forth. It is so adorable. And then you have, and you can't even see any kind of adhesive on the outside or anything like that. But you can see that it has a lot of dimension, and I love that it has so much dimension. I really like giving cards 3D. And the front, the inside, so cute. Really hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I appreciate you watching. This is the first time I've ever done this, and I think this card is just too adorable not to share how to do it. Thank you.